Good night. Kia ora tātou, and welcome everybody to today's meeting of the Clutha District Council Risk and Assurance Committee. I will start with a karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia makina kina ki uta, kia mātara tara ki tai, e he aki ana te atakura, e tio, e huka, e hoho, te hei moriora. Scanning the room, we are all present, no apologies. Are there any declarations of interest that anybody wishes to share? There are not. Any items of urgent business? Nothing has reached the front desk. And there is nobody in the public forum today. Just before we push forward, there are some changes to the agenda. You'll notice on your first read through that pages 25 through 36 were a bit out of order. So those pages have now been removed from the agenda and replaced with a 4-page spreadsheet, which you've got an A3 size in front of you at the moment, and that was also emailed last Friday night, I think, so you've all had a look at that. We're not renumbering the rest of the agenda, we'll just treat those as blank pages. And the in-committee part of the agenda, there's an insurance report on page 7, which somehow sneaked its way onto the agenda. That is to be withdrawn. Councillors will recall that paper was actually discussed at the May council meeting. So one of those wee quirky technology things that's happened for us. Right, first item is to review the minutes from our last meeting of 11 June. We'll just do a page turn, starting on page 10. Yell out if there's anything that you wish to discuss. Page 11. Of course, we're still waiting for direction on the LTP, although at this stage we will proceed with what we know. Page 12, page 13, page 14. Does anybody know what's the status of the application for the Elsie Stewart funding from the Community Trust? Is that still in the pipeline? Or? Yeah.
Through you.
Good morning, everybody. So at this point in time, I haven't been updated by the Trust on whether they've been successful or not on that additional funding.
Thanks, Donna. Page 15. Page 16, just the bullet point right down the bottom, says borrowings dashboard 166,800. Of course, there's 3 more noughts to be added to that sum. So it's 166 million, not 166,000. Pages 17 and 18. Do we have a mover? Councillor Graham, Councillor Kennedy. All in favour? Carried. Go to my report on page number 19. I start off by refocusing on, really introducing what we talked about last time, the uncertainty in the sector. I acknowledge councillors have had plenty of opportunities to attend workshops over the past few weeks, and that will continue on into the future as we lead through to the date in early August that we have to file our third option for. There's 2 major areas that I would like to focus on today. The first of those is a review of our capital projects, which are part of a separate report that we've got coming in a couple of items' time from Sharon. But as we review those projects, there are some key things I want you to think about in terms of the content of the project reports, which I've listed in my report, and just for the record, we'll go over those. So it's important that we continue to have in front of us the delivery time frame and the project budget. Also the funding source, the cash flow, which is quite important, any identified risks associated with those projects and how those risks are being managed, the performance of the contractor and any engagements that we need to be aware of. Very importantly, community expectations for each of those projects. Why are we doing it, and what benefit is it going to bring? And also the future year's operational cost and the impact on rates as a result of having that. And also looking at things like the revenue and financing policy as well. So as I say, that will be discussed in depth a wee bit more in Sharon's report. The second area that I want to focus on as part of my report is the risk status report, or the identification of risks to the organisation. We do have a risk register, which is reviewed periodically. The current one that we have was reviewed in the year 2022, so timely that we, with a new council, review those risks again, and also some of those things that are happening around us. We need to be mindful of business as usual, making sure we deliver those at the same time. What I've done on the whiteboard over here is identify what these are some of the risks that I believe that we need to identify as an organisation at the moment. And I'm interested at A, in your feedback on those, and B, additional risks that you think should be listed on the board. This is a two-part discussion. We're going to go through and identify these at today's meeting, and at our next meeting in 6 weeks' time, we will bring back a staff report for consideration by the committee with recommendations that the risk register be updated to identify these current risks and also how they're going to be reported back and the type of information. Some of these are fairly obvious things, some need a wee bit more explanation. So the first one is the consequences, intended or otherwise, of the considerable legislative reform that's in front of us at the moment and the time that that's taking, not only for council but for the community. The failure of the waters, plural, infrastructure, and the consequence of how we would deliver if there was a major breakdown. Failure to comply with legislation is fairly straightforward. Most of these are governance related rather than operational related for quite obvious reasons. Steve and his team have also got some identified risks in terms of the business as usual. The lack of a business continuity plan, or the failure to continue to review our business continuity plan. So we know that we are able to do things. I remember from my years at Selwyn, we went through quite a few disaster events, but people still expected the dogs to be registered or other things, despite what was going on around us. Failure to engage appropriate resources, that could be at staffing level, but it could also be at contracting level, just given the significant list of project works that we have in front of us and the ability for those third parties to be able to staff as well. Next one's quite obvious, recovery from natural disaster. That's both in time but also in cost and the funding impact that that will have. Loss of building accreditation might seem operational, but in terms of the expansion of the district, it's really important that council does keep control of that activity. Probably the biggest one for me is reputational damage, not only to council itself, but to the local government sector, and making sure that we have the right messaging to our community about what we do, why we do it, how we do it, and the benefits of doing what we are. Failure to deliver of major projects, both within cost and time. There is an expectation that we engage in these significant projects, particularly for the benefit of our community members expecting to use these facilities, particularly that we're building, or benefit from the enhanced infrastructure. Financial pressure. Are we putting pressure on ourselves that make rating unaffordable, or are we doing things that the community want and are quite prepared to pay for? And the other one is technology failure, because we are more and more dependent on technology as we go forward. So that's the David list, and I'm interested to hear your comments on those, whether you think we need to add to that, whether we need to put a line through some of those. And as I say, we will develop, our staff to develop a report examining those risks and how they will be reported back. So 2 parts to the question. Number 1, comment on the list. And number 2, what is the depth of information that you would like to see in the risk reports that come back regularly to the committee? So who wants to kick it off? So Councillor Maketamini.
Thank you. The very first one is a bit peculiar to me because, in a sort of a way, it's almost an external risk. Like we are engaged, we're involved. There's very little we can actually do. The remainder of the list are all things, the risks that can come internally. Yeah. So as long as we stay engaged, we can't actually do much. Yeah. So in a way it doesn't.
Yeah.
I have no great fear.
Maybe that is the risk of not engaging.
But we are.
We are.
Yeah.
But if you have a look around the country, there are some who hand up and say, no.
Yeah. Yeah. But the others are all. But most of the pressure is external, whereas the other ones, if we have problems there, it's internal. Yeah. But we are in control.
Yeah. So the engagement and maybe also the communication back to the community of our stance.
Yes. No, yeah. I just don't see it as a critical risk as such.
Okay. Other comments? Are we comfortable with the list? So if we're comfortable with the list, what are the things that you want to see reported back from staff? How do we want to see that? Is it around trying to... I'm deliberately not going to rank and say this is the most important risk. We don't know, Councillor Kennedy.
To me, the reporting back is important because that is what goes out to our public. So that we are on time, that there is no cost blowouts, all that sort of thing. Contractors are available, that we're not just taking any old contractor, not first off the rank type thing. So all those little bits in the background all merge that picture so that what goes out to the public is, everything above board and what they need to know.
Flip to page 21 of the agenda. And that's a list of what are considered to be the current critical and high risks. And there's a few things there that are not included in the list. Do you think they should be? So, number 1, public health and resource consent breaches. Got it covered up here, failure to comply with legislation. Pretty straightforward. Failure to manage response and impact of central government reform. That's the first one I've got up there. Water services assets, got it. Non-compliance, got it. Ineffective people leadership. I've deliberately left that one off. There are 2 parts to that. The first one happens every 3 years, which brings you to the table through the ballot box. And the second part is the chief executive and the way that CE manages the organisation and his responsibility for the staff. Business continuity processes, got it up there. Climate change. Is that still a thing that's worthy of putting up on the list? Yes? No? Slipping down the list. It was all the rage a few years ago, wasn't it? Failure to implement procurement processes, and we had a separate report on that. Giving effect to the treaty. I think that probably could be added to the list. Or should be added to the list. Number 10, failure to implement strong organisational culture. I see that as a responsibility of the chief executive. I will report the outcomes to that back to the organisation. And managing regulatory change from regional council or Taumata Harawai. We might also go to page number 30. What is the page number? 38 in the agenda. And it's just the top of that is that's the risks that we're reporting back on at the moment. So you see, in recent times we've done most of those. It's just aligning the current risks with the reporting program. So what is the information that we want from staff reports, Councillor McAtee?
Just to comment on the climate change one, a lot of that does fit under a lot of the other risks.
Yeah.
When it comes to mitigation, it's still a factor when you're looking at these other things, not as such like that.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd agree with Councillor McAtee, and some of those things, climate change and the ORC Te Amara Arawai thing, are probably consequences of legislative reform. So maybe they're covered under that a little bit as well.
Yeah. Councillor Smith.
Just through you, the Chair, the lack of business continuity plan, that could actually be in brackets and cover a lot of that. A lot of that stuff sits in that.
Yeah, and I would see the driver of the business continuity plan as being the Chief Executive and the management team, with assurance reported back to the governance arm or arms of council that we do have a satisfactory plan that we can pull out, that we can respond to, that we regularly review. Councillor Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you want us to go through each one of these individually and tell staff what we want for that particular one, or are you looking at it as a whole thing? Because we get reports, and some of them are in this agenda and the next one, that keep us up to date with how projects are tracking and et cetera, where they are with the budget. So that information is quite readily available now. So are you looking for something more than that? Are you asking us to maybe be a bit more refined in what we're asking staff to deliver to us?
Where appropriate, yes. I would like to see that refinement.
Okay.
So and it will be different for each of the risks, pretty obviously. But are there some specific high-level things? So again, go back to repeat what I said before. This is a two-part process. We're identifying today, we'll bring a staff report back to delve further, Councillor Cotton, into some of the things that you have talked about. But are there any glaring gaps or overlaps that are there at the moment that we want to discuss further? Or are we reasonably comfortable with what we've got? Think about it between now and the next meeting and bring back discussion, comments about the content, but also the depth.
So like on page 21,
Yep.
on number 1, that graph there, I mean, it's shining up as red, right? So public health resource consent
Yep.
breach is critical. So is this, do we want this document to be where we sit right at this very moment? Or is that we've identified as critical if we breach public health and resource consent breaches? So are we looking at it like what's live actually happening now?
Yeah.
For us to delve deeper, and then like you go down further on 4, you've got the yellow band there, but there's no guide of what yellow is. That moderate or two blues there on that table 21?
There will be varying degrees of exposure, and go back to what Councillor McAtee was talking about with consequences of legislative reform. It's a big thing at the moment, but in 6 months' time it'll be less so. The reforms that you're talking about, they will have their moment in the sun.
So looking at that table 20 on our agenda
Yep.
21, number 4, non-compliance with legal policy, it's residual risk rating got it sitting at yellow,
Yep.
what's that relate to?
I wouldn't take too much notice of the
Don't worry
colour.
about that.
No. That's the thing that we'll be talking about at the next meeting.
So it's just a matter of adding what's missing from that list here
Yeah.
to this list here,
Yeah.
and getting an update of whether it's red, blue, dark blue, or green.
Correct. So, judging by the response so far, everyone's reasonably comfortable with the list that's up on the board. So I will proceed to brief staff in terms of the content of the report for our next agenda and how we might like to look at some of the report back information. Are we comfortable to proceed on that basis?
Mm.
Yep. Okay. Back to my report. I'm halfway down page 20. Financial reports, further information today, the opportunity to consider some of those issues that we discussed in the workshop 6 weeks ago, and also questions for Sharon and staff, who I know will be delighted to receive them and respond. Also, Sharon will give us an overview of the proposed changes to financial reporting that are proposed by legislation. And my question of staff has been, is this going to impose additional workload on resources at the moment, or are we reasonably comfortable? And also just give us an update on and you might want to do this now, Sharon, on the interim audit work that's been done thus far.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we had an interim audit prior to the end of June, where they look more at that stage, they look at processes, like what we do to strike our rates, what we do to reconcile our bank, how we do our fixed assets each year, who checks it, just making sure the controls are there internally and stuff like that. So we've had no commentary back on that yet and don't expect to. And then we have we're currently pulling together our annual report, or we're attempting to, and because we've just passed when we pay our end of June bills, so we're pulling it all together now. And our final audit is penciled in for the start of September for a month, and we do that because we need to adopt it before the end of October, so we're planning on track to do that. So yeah, and they've said that if we can get some stuff to them early around revaluations or some of the bigger pieces of work, they'll try and do them late August. Tick that stuff off so we remain on track.
And since our last meeting, I've had brief engagement with our external auditor, Mike Walken, and that was specific to long-term plan stuff. But no other issues that he's raised with me around interim audit work. So with that, happy to answer any questions on any other aspects of my report. If there are some, there are none, so I will move. Councillor Cotton will second the recommendation on page 19. All in favour? Carried. As I said, two-part focus this time, risk register review, and the second one is category A reporting. So I'll ask Sharon to speak to her report on page 22 on category A reporting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this report is coming to you because we have reported on the same projects for 2 years now, and we should review those and update them as we go. So we have sent this list that you have in front of you out to staff and asked them, we've proposed some projects and asked them to propose others, and this is what's in front of you, and the recommendation here is the combined list of what the staff have come up with. We've provided you this list here so that you can go through it, have a look and talk through if you have any different suggestions of things you would like to see. And also in the report, we've given you a list of the projects we have been reporting on, which are included later in this agenda, and the changes to the ones that we're proposing. So we're just happy to take any questions and suggestions.
Well, here's the first observation. It's just the significance of the workload that we've got in front of us in the next 12 months. So you've had a look at the bottom line, $77 million worth of work is going to be undertaken. I think I've gotten the numbers right, added them up, 179 different line items. Significant workload again, but also significantly 111 of that 179 fall under the Three Waters banner. So we talk about the consequences of legislation and the impact from the 1st of July next year. There's basically 2/3 of the work program for this year is going to be withdrawn from council discussion in 12 months' time. Broke my heart to see the Balmoral Tuapeka Rural Water Scheme omitted from the list, as you would appreciate. Also, still smarting that I never got an invite to the opening last week. Sure, someone's taken some photos that can show me, given my interest in that project. Sharon has come up with a list. The question of you is, do you agree with the list? Question 1. And question 2, what is the depth of information that you're looking for on the project? Or are we comfortable with the content of those reports that are put in front of us at each meeting? And some of these are fairly obvious. Elsie Stewart, fairly obvious. Milton projects, with the addition of the pipeline renewals and the network renewals. Mount Cooey, which we're having separate discussions on. Rosebank Hill pipeline is a new one. Transportation group of projects. You might say why. That's going to be significant for us going. And over the page to data
Is
scopes.
that bridge replacements? Is that where the bridge replacements are coming up? The transportation group of projects?
Through you, Mr. Chair, potentially there's bridge replacements in there, I'm not sure, but we put that in because we're in year 3 of a 3-year program, and it's to monitor to make sure that we spend our money so we get the NZTA portion. Donna will be able to comment on the bridge renewals.
Yeah, I just see there's quite a substantial sum. So we're moving ahead this year that we're going to forward.
So through you, Mr. Chair. So the issues that we've had in the past 2 years, if you recall, is that NZTA actually changed the funding criteria to what our council had been approved, I think from memory back in 2018 for 50 max bridge projects. And due to that, it actually took the first year of the NLTP, so 2 years ago now, the first year we weren't actually advised of that officially from NZTA until March, which then meant that although we'd done a lot of the design work already, we couldn't go forward with any tenders or anything like that, and we had to carry that work forward into last financial year. And then last financial year, they then advised us that they wanted, that it no longer met the criteria of work category 216. Following negotiations, we were able to get it into what we call minor improvements, work category 341 with the NZTA. However, again, with the time lags, we were still unable to deliver. We've now gone out to tender. The evaluation is occurring, and we're in the final stages of evaluations to try and deliver up to 9 bridges, which is huge for this council. There is a risk that it may not all, physical work will not be completed by June of this year. So we will have to have discussions with NZTA to ensure that we can carry forward that work.
So the 4.1 million bridge, that's our portion of bridges, is that?
That's the proposed work for this financial year.
Not our portion.
Yes,
Is
the
it our
total.
portion or is it?
No, it's the total budget funding available, which has been carried forward year on year, inclusive of this year.
This is in the annual plan, Donna, that's been adopted.
What's our portion
33%
of that figure?
Yeah.
It's actually 5.7 million we have available.
What's that, sorry?
It's 5.7 million that we're hoping to deliver.
That's the approved funding we've got.
Total funding, including local share.
Through you too, Mr. Chairman. Our share of that comes from the bridge depreciation reserve, so it's not rates funded as such. It comes out of reserves. And that's the only thing we put the funding into for reserves for transportation.
Have we got that much in reserves for transportation?
I'll have to check with the finance team, but I'm pretty sure we're a few years away from the loan funding that at this stage.
Good. So the question is, are we comfortable that this is the category A list of projects we will be reporting on for the current financial year? Councillor Kennedy.
Through you, Chairman. Just a reminder, what is LOS?
Level of service.
That is level of service.
Councillor Makatavani.
Balmoral Shafika, Roger might confirm on this. The plant is open,
Yes.
but there's still potentially quite a bit of capital functioning.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, and in fact, there is risk attached, absolutely. I think the issue with that is that we are intending to report that separately because of time constraints. So the risk associated with supply for summer and what are we going to do to ensure that is a time constrained risk. And so what we were looking at for that particular one is sort of outside the your formal slower reporting process. We haven't yet reported that as a risk to council because we're still developing the information for that. There's still, we need to be discussing things with the committee, for example, and with council. So we're pulling that information together, but it's clear that there is a separate risk attached to that area of capital, potential capital. But it needs to be resolved. That's the risk. It needs to be resolved before Christmas. So we will keep the chair of the risk and assurance committee, but you only meet on a less frequent basis. That makes sense. And I would expect that once we've identified the risk and the program, that we can still separately add. When you have a meeting, Mr. Chairman, we can still feed that in as a separate paper anyway. And that would be why we wouldn't be suggesting it's sitting in the Cat A process. It's an additional. It's additional to the existing project. So that's how we were going to treat it. So absolutely agree with you. It's worthy of separate identification and given as a risk issue.
Other comments, questions? Some of the things in the staff report that I've just jotted down that I would like to see us receive. Firstly, just overview of the project itself, key contractors, key staff, the budget, but more importantly, the funding sources, the timeline, the community expectations, and obviously the risks associated with those. So bundled under those comments, which are pretty much what we're receiving at the moment.
If we haven't noted that fully, Mr. Chairman, obviously you'll be passing that through.
Yes. So any other comments from anybody? Are we comfortable with anyone happy to move the list of category A projects recommended for 26-27? Councillor Graham, is that person? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Makatavani? Any further discussion?
Chair, so out of that list of projects, how many did you identify of Three Waters?
By my rough count, 111.
111.
Of 100 and, what did I say? 100.
His worship would mean 4.
So basically it's about 2/3 of them.
They're not projects in here that can drop out now, that have been identified that they're achieved.
These are the projects that are included in the annual plan that you've adopted a couple of weeks back. So no is the short answer.
I just see one here. So we've pretty much finished the project of reservoir upgrades. It's got in here the table steel, which we ended up with the plastics. That's still sitting on that list. Project's finished, yeah.
What, the reservoir?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still, through your chair, yeah, there's still remaining works there.
So there's still 98 thousand to spend, or is that coming out of that existing budget? What is to finish, or?
Waker Reservoir project.
So this is right down the bottom, is that right, councillor Cathland, about
Yeah,
5 or 6 from the bottom? 93,834,000.
93,000. Yeah, it's just the remaining telemetry through your chair.
So is that new capital, or is that from the existing identified original project?
That would have been carried forward, I presume, through the annual plan process to finish off.
So there's still 93 sitting there.
Yeah, that won't necessarily be spent all.
Yeah, so through you, Chair, so if you recall, we've made multiple savings in the tank farm portfolio because we've done procurement, purchasing, bulk buying, particularly with the tanks. The telemetry note and flow meter work is additional to what was in the original scope, but we have the budgets available from original budgets, which was set aside in the original LTPs.
And the Carker Point Reservoir renewals upgrade, that comes up later on this afternoon, doesn't it?
Yes, that's in our ISD reports.
Yeah, so that's to be canned, so that budget will get returned. Is that?
So our team, whenever we try our best to either, I always say to the team, the budget is not a target, it's the maximum we have available. However, we always, with our best intention, try to deliver projects within or under budget. And if at time we've delivered under budget, particularly with the rural water scheme, that money basically goes back, remains with council, it's not spent.
Thank you, Donna.
So then my next question would be, probably being so many free water, the reality of actually delivering all these projects this year. There's a substantial amount of projects. Have we got the extra personnel to deliver these projects?
So through the chair, so if you recall a few council meetings ago, we went through a strategic proposal which council approved that because of Southern Water Done Well in particular forming, that the majority of the projects, unless from our Three Waters operations GM, that with Linda and I and Ramo we sat down together, unless it was absolutely critical and a top priority, we would be only delivering projects to design phase. So we've currently only got this financial year 28 Three Water projects on our box for delivery, which includes design. Do we have the internal resources available at the moment? We have the team, our full team in the Three Water space. Again, with projects, it's very difficult to determine with unforeseen issues and concerns, but our intention is to be on track with those 28 projects.
So is that 28 out of the 111?
Correct. All the rest, it was agreed at council to be deferred until it went through to Southern Water Done Well.
Of interest though, you look at the community services and there's 41 projects in there. Are we understaffed? Have we got enough staff to fill those projects?
Through the chair, a lot of the community service projects is what our team calls a minor capital project, and they're often delivered by the community services team, or operations team rather than capital.
Yeah, that was what I'm saying. It's a lot of work for a small department.
So this is the list that you have adopted, included in your draft annual plan. So the questions would have been asked then in terms of delivery timeframe, cycle, resourcing, availability of contractors and financial consequence as well. So your role now as governors is to keep this sheet handy and keep referring back to it in terms of, that's why the importance of category A projects, reporting back, any other report back information that we need as well.
Yeah, so is it another line where it's this year and just left it as identified as a LTP, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you.
The next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, you look at that and you're like, whoa, okay, and you scratch your memory of which ones of these are we actually planning to perform this year?
Yeah.
which resonates back through you, Mr. Chair, to your item number 2, where you say in there, I'm interested to hear if members believe that we are communicating our perceived risks to our community in an appropriate and regular manner. Do our communities better understand some of the work? So this, and that statement on page 20, is a very good example.
Right, we have a mover and a seconder. Are there any other questions, comments or observations before we put that?
My only comment is that I'd be more comfortable to know more, a little bit more, of, is it happening this year, like potentially?
Yes.
We still probably won't deliver all 28. So some of it's only for design phase, right? So it's a design, the aspirations to fulfill the project, and then we know that the ones that get pushed out. So is it 3 check boxes?
Yeah. I'll just ask Donna to respond to that.
Is it?
Councillor Cathal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the way that our team works, because you're correct, we cannot physically deliver 120 projects in any financial year. We prioritise the importance of the projects, and so from that we seek the councillor's guidance with Category A projects. They are our priority. We also then talk with the prioritisation of need, particularly in the through water space, with Linda and her team, hence the reason we have 28 through water projects on our box. And we have to prioritise the transportation, because if we don't deliver those, we could potentially have funding issues. So you're correct, we can't physically deliver all of these projects, so they do get deferred and pushed forward year on year. One of the strategies is that the operations team works on what we consider minor capital projects, and again, that is determined on their team's resource availability as well at the time.
Thank you, Donna. We have a mover, Councillor Graham, seconder, Councillor McAtamaney, for the recommendations that are on page number 22. All in favour? Against? Carried. And we just note the page numbering is there's a few blank pages now as we go through to page 37 for Donna's risk report.
Good morning, thank you. It's quite timely, this report, I guess, just from this prior discussion. So as you can see, you can hear that? Yeah. Sorry. As you can see, I've put a status update on what I considered the current controls associated with what was current inherent risks. So internally, I'm really confident with our current procurement processes that we have in place. In the time that Rayma and I have been at this council, we've definitely implemented standardisation of processes, documentation and templates, where a lot of sign-off occurs now that goes from the project managers through to Rayma, myself, Jules, and as required under delegations to Steve. We still do have some risks associated with this. One is resourcing, as we're aware that, with team coming and going, you can have issues associated with that. But the key risks at the moment, we do have recruited and in place a procurement officer role. However, until a full handover from that team member's original work is handed into the project accountant, that role's really not being able to be commenced as yet. Once that role does fully get implemented, we do foresee that there could be potential additional savings with procurement, because we'll be looking at similar to what we did with the tank farm project, where we went out with bulk purchasing with suppliers. And of course, ongoing, we're constantly revising whenever there's any central government revisions on rules and requirements for procurement, or changes with NZTA, which we touched on with, for example, with the bridges. We constantly update that. So that's more like a living document ongoing. So apart from that though, if you have any questions, I'll take this report as read.
Thanks, Donna. Questions for Donna? Councillor Frost.
Through you, Chair, page 39, key risk indicators, talks about the procurement officer role in Greater Pine-Pier. Under status, it says not started. How long before this should be implemented?
So that's what I was just talking to just a moment ago. That's going to depend on when the new project accountant role will be able to start uplifting that information, that workload.
Good. Other questions or observations? And when we're reading this report, double back to the comments we made before about those identified risks. What is the information that you would like to receive, acknowledging that that will be different for each risk? Do we have a mover? Councillor Kennedy, seconded Councillor Cotton. Recommendations on page 37. All in favour say aye. Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Donna. Page 42, Health and Safety Report. Christina, welcome.
Thank you. Kia ora koutou. Firstly, well done to my team for receiving 80% favourable score in our recent satisfaction survey. These results don't just happen, it's a testament to all the hard work that our team have put in. So kia pai tō mahi, Jocelyn and Linda, for everything that you've done. Thank you so much. We measure almost everything that we do. So we know exactly where we need to be improving as a team and also where we need to be improving as an organisation. So I've noted some of those things on page 48. We need to lift our response performance. So this quarter, 49% of our issues reported met the response target. So this means that when a staff member has an issue, they receive a quick response. Something's happened, I need to respond. I need to make sure that we've put something in place, we have a plan in place to make sure that it doesn't happen again, or we are controlling the hazard. So we want to be lifting that response target. We measure those every month and we send out like reports to our GM so they can be followed up with those who are responsible. 11 wellbeing related issues were reported this quarter. They came through. We need to agree as a business how we can design those sort of issues out so our people can thrive. We have a hui on what that might look like and what we could do in August with the senior leadership team. We have a huge number of inspections, so we can see that our staff are getting out there and doing a lot of proactive work. So most of those inspections this quarter related to our vehicles, 3 waters and community housing, but we want to see proactive monitoring and maintenance inspections completed at our pools and libraries. That's something that we're looking at next week actually. So what are our critical equipment at the pool and what inspections do we have in place? So we're working on the team with that next week. Well done to the 3 waters team. We got 100% compliance on all the 15 plants that need location compliance certificates. So that's massive as well. It's an annual requirement. So hopefully this year will be a lot smoother. We have established our improvement action plan. So every single year we take what we've learned from the year before, we take what we've learned from our surveys, what our staff are saying, what the leaders are saying, where we need to perform better, and we put actions in place to improve across the year. So we want to be clarifying our roles and responsibilities and applying them. So when an issue is reported, the right person knows that they are the person that needs to respond. It's not me, it's the team that needs to respond. We have processes in place which says if it's a high risk health and safety issue, then you need to be responding within 24 hours. If it's medium, you need to be responding within 48, and if it's low, within 72. Our health and safety reps, so they need to be trained so that the team have someone that they can go to if they need help with reporting, an issue or how to do things, where to find processes. They also are the people who they go to get PPE. And improvements in where our budgets lie as well, so that the teams have access to budget to be able to apply health and safety things, the things that they need, rather than coming to me for health and safety stuff. As I said, every month the SRT get reports on health and safety. GMs get reports on open issues and actions that need to be dealt with. And we meet with our GMs on a regular basis to talk about what's happening in their team and where we need to work together to make improvements. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Christina. A lot of detail on that report. Do we have any questions? Councillor Graham?
Mr. Chair, Christina, in the type of issues reported, there's one there for incivility. Was that from the public to staff, or do you know?
Yeah, so that was in Q2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are internal.
Okay.
Before in Q4, customer behaviour. So those are where our staff are being abused over the phone or over email or face to face. But this quarter, it's been over email or phone.
Thank you. Councillor Catherwood.
Yeah, just on 47, Christine, you reported, you marked yourself as, so you come up here with 49% on responses. So does it have to be within 24, this has got within 24 hours, you're aiming for an 82%? So yeah, just
okay.
an example of like how we ended up in a 49.
Yeah. So when an issue happens, you have 24 hours to report it in the system because we want to know straight away. Yeah, so that's that within 24 hours. And then over at Met Response Target, so I've reported the issue within 24 hours and I want Steve to have a plan for how to deal with it within the 72, 48 or 24 hours, depending if it's high, medium or low. So this 49% we want to see increasing so that we fixing problems quicker. Or no, that we have a plan to fix the problem quicker, because you can't just expect us to be able to, yeah.
So of total incidents reported, 82% of them were reported within 24 hours.
Correct.
And then only 49% of that.
No. Only 49% of the
total amount?
Total, yeah.
Were responded in the correct time.
Yes.
Frame.
So this quarter we had 45 issues reported and 49% met the response timeframe. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
That would be a pretty good response and resolution time percentage though, would it? Or are you not happy with that?
No, I want 100%.
Oh yeah, we all want it.
Yeah, like if you look across the well done to everybody, because we've had some changes and I think the team are responding well to those changes. So normally like a year ago I might have responded, but if you see in Q1 we had 31% and now we're at 49%. But we always want to keep improving. That's part of our close to stars, high performing teams.
So there's a lack of, well, you've got high expectations, you're obviously not achieving it. You're reporting that you're not achieving it, but is it just a lot of it administration side of it? It's just the detail, eh?
Yeah, you'll
it's
see.
Not actually, there's actually a higher risk. Health and actual safety. It's just the paperwork isn't getting delivered.
At times, we're measuring that, and we're seeing in our improvement areas that the teams want better to know how to use our system better, And they may have put in a control, but they might not have updated the system.
Yeah.
But that's not helpful, because how do we have assurance that the thing's been done?
Captured.
Yeah. Yeah, so we know here.
It looks bad, but it's more of an admin.
Well, yeah, well, like you said, it is good. We are doing well, but we want to always do better.
Yeah.
And we know that we need to improve on this system area to support our people to know what that they do need to put updates in the system.
Yeah, because it reads bad, doesn't it, right?
Through you, Mr. Chair, though, getting to the top is all right, but learning to stay there is the problem. So don't be in a hurry, Christina. But through you, Mr. Chair, I see exposure to aggression, conflict, and threatening behaviour. It's extremely high. Is that something when we're looking at potential critical and high risks on the whiteboard? Like, it's obvious that customer behaviour is on the rise.
Yeah, those risks there are. We have a separate health and safety critical risk register. So threatening behaviour is certainly on that critical risk register. And we've just developed a critical risk minimum standards guide alongside the SLT. So how are we managing that threatening behaviour risk, and what controls do we have in place? So the controls that we have in place are some system things, and training and culture.
I get that side of it. So you're working hard on looking after the welfare of the staff, but from the council perspective, what are we actually doing in communicating to our communities? Goes back to the second item in the
and it's interesting you raised that, Your Worship. Christina and I had this exact conversation late yesterday afternoon in terms of the communication network. The how and the why and the tolerance levels.
And it comes back to our reputational damage. It's slotting in there, having the right messaging that we discussed earlier.
And one of the things we're going to make sure is that we've got the appropriate support networks in place. Are you confident we're developing those networks? And there's always something you'll always aspire to go further. But
We know when we are going to have more intense public issue. So we saw across, last year when we had our elections, it was more intense. So we need to be more intentional about our messaging that we put across. Or when there's rates rises, or when there's animal control things that go out. So with this minimum standards guide, we should be in a better position to be talking about it more and putting things in place.
Am I overreacting here, Mr. Chair? But we're talking about reporting, so that aggressive behaviour and that. And you're just touching on it then around elections and rates and dogs and so forth. Is that actually when you report it, what areas of functions of the organisation are you experiencing it most? Just in the reporting, I don't know. I thought. And then do we have the past history and seeing what's the theme, what's the pattern over the last 24 months, or work it off a term as you're going through the term, do it term by term, and is it escalating? Is it going down? Is it certain times of the year it peaks? Is it the winter? Is it the summer? It'll actually provide us with the data and set the scene.
Right, we do have that data. We know where it's coming from. Typically, it's towards our water staff on the ground and our animal control staff, but it's our front of house people who receive it a lot as well. So even though they aren't the ones, but they're picking up the phones and they're getting it.
What I'm alluding to, though, is that data is very important information for us when it comes back to our reputational damage and having the right messaging, because then if we're putting that out to communities and saying, well, hey, look, these are the departments that are getting the flogging.
That's right, and I can, I love that, and we can make that data more visible in some way. I
Yeah.
haven't.
Oh, and our reporting would be good because
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
it tells the story.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Graham.
Yeah, Christina, is there a, is there a culture out there that some people don't actually realise what level you have to report? Like if I jam a finger in the door or something, I would say, oh, yeah, no, or ripped a nail or something, or whatever it is, the level that they have to, do they know the level that they have to report?
Yeah, it is a culture piece. We've put in a process and we have examples of what we want to see. And I think if you think something's happened, you should always report it. We want everyone to be reporting, but they won't. There's a level of under-reporting always. And that's where we need to be getting our leaders out there. They go out once a quarter. We need to improve there. We've got our managers going out to sites every month. We need to make sure those are happening. I need to be proactively going to teams and talking to them. And that's where you find out how their work is going. And then, oh yeah, maybe I should report that. And so those things help.
So there'll be a certain demographic that don't, I'm thinking of when old blokes go to the doctor, they never tell them what I'm fine, but you don't. As that young people accept the system or the process easier than the elderly.
No, I think
You
no
can.
comments.
What are you saying?
Councillor
Connor. Councillor Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Firstly, thank you for the report, Christina. The first thing that I love about what you've told us today is that you're striving for excellence, and I love that. You might not ever get there, but striving for it's one thing. But for me, this is around two things: awareness and mitigation. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
So that simplifies it.
Yeah.
So,
And we'll note those comments, Christina, when we talk about content of the report for the next meeting. We'll just look at how we can maybe build on those thoughts that have come across the table today.
Sure, thank you.
So thank you very much. Very detailed report. Recommendation on page 42, moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded Councillor Harrison. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Capital project reports on page 50. And we'll put the jug on and have a cup of tea after this suite of reports. Donna and team, welcome. So as we typically do, we'll go straight to attachments for report, and then we will come back and talk about Datascape and the others. Raymar, welcome.
Through the chair, before I start, probably I'll just inform the council that to support John with his return to work plan, the Balmoral to Apeka project and the remaining stuff there will be handled by me. And then for the streetscape, Dred Garcia, who's sitting back there, will be taking over that project. And then for the Milton pipeline renewals, Ash, who's over there as well, would be taking that project. So I've asked them to join, because next reporting cycle, they will be the one who's standing here.
Good.
So for Balmoral to Apeka, I think there was some few discussions earlier about the remaining risk, which is the localized undersupply, which the team currently now is looking for a solution. When I say solution, we're looking at putting in a booster pump at the Waitahuna pump station. We're still on the early stages of getting a very clear scope so that we would have the right pump to make sure that the objective is being met on that remaining aspect. With that, I'll open the floor for questions.
On page 55, I'll just read back the sentence. Overall, the program is progressing, but remains exposed to risks until, and this is the question, commissioning telemetry permanent solutions are completed. When is that anticipated to happen?
Through your chair. The risk here that the team understands is before summer we should have completed all these issues. So that's the target that we're going before December. We should be able to close up those issues.
And just to support that, so Steve Lund and I talked earlier this week as well, and I've been dealing with with Becca. So originally, one of the pump that they were originally proposing was having to come in from Europe, which had a long lead-in time for delivery. We're currently looking at a different option where we can potentially get a pump from Australia. They're just doing some final modelling to ensure that that pump would be sufficient. And if it is so, then of course we're going to be mitigating that time delay quite significantly. But as Raymar said, we're still in that early stages of discovery.
And within the remaining budget?
That's
Not
one of the risk
necessarily.
elements, Mr. Chairman, and that's why this is going to be separate from
Yes.
this. I see this as a separate mini project trying to address. So there's a number of components to pull together for that.
Your Worship?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So would effectively, with the work that you've been doing and getting specifications, it's liable to be done within the next 5 months, because that's going to be the peak periods when we start hitting January and then February, 6 months out. That's going to be the high demand for those farmers in that area. What sort of a timeline are you thinking?
That's what we're working back from, Your Worship. That's why we're targeting.
But the team's aware of the urgency of this. That's quite critical.
Absolutely, that's why we're looking at an option from Australia. So we're incredibly aware of that situation. At this point in time, it is looking that the Australian pump could be acceptable. However, before we put our hand on our heart with that, we want to get some final modelling done. But we're totally aware of the current situation, yes.
Councillor Cotton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question from me, or a statement maybe as well, but the scoping work for this has already been done, or when the original design was done, so that should speed the process up, or do you have to redesign everything?
Through your chair, I need to check that because this project has started, I think, back in 2022, which I wasn't here yet. But what we're trying to do here is, that's why Donna have mentioned about Becca, because the histories with that consultants, and our intent is to have that history ready, and so that we can cut down those timelines in terms of the design.
Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair. Raymar, the other missing piece still was that what you're looking to do with that fibre ducting. Whether that is still in limbo or whether it's always going to stay in limbo.
Through your chair, currently what we're doing there is we have calculated the associated costs, and we're going back to that contractor to have that the final piece of that determination under that piece of the contract. So that hasn't happened yet, but we are also working on the sidelines to get that sorted, unless there's a decision to be made whether we do the without the fiber, because right now it's working.
It's working.
Yeah.
But there's still a contractual issue.
Contractual issue, yes, exactly.
Yeah, and it is quite a big landowner issue again for many of us. If you are going to do it, like I know I had to fix 25 fences, multiple troughs and things, and I'm only just a portion of that too. So if it is going to happen, there's going to be quite a bit of communication.
through your chair, having said that, what I'll do in terms of the project is, before we make that decision of having the fiber in or continue with what we have, we'll consult with the management as well as the rural water scheme.
Yeah, I think that's quite important.
Through
Councillor
you,
Frost?
Chair, I want to say, why are we using fibre? Why aren't we using Wi-Fi or something else? As opposed to putting cables on the ground.
Through your chair, I remember 2 years ago that there was a discussion about this, and one of the items that was flagged there was the reliability in terms whenever there's bad weather. There was a discussion, and at that point in time, a decision was made to put in the fiber instead of just the signal, the internet. I always forget the name of that. Radio.
Councillor McTamaney?
Just for a bit of history, Gary, contractors pulled that cable in with the pipe, the cable for the ducting to go through, but they crushed it, made a terrible job, but through our place, that's probably, they tested it and it was jammed about 4 times within a K.
Yeah, but I'd still.
So we paid that money for that.
With modern technology.
Yes, I know, but
Yeah, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
it won't be that long and all our phone services are going to come from satellites, hundreds of miles in the sky. You know? So there can't be too much wrong with the reliability of technology, or why we're moving to AI and such things, which all comes through your phone, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Just doesn't seem to make much sense to me that we're paying a small fortune to put a cable under the ground.
Well, we already have paid that small fortune and we haven't got anything for it, which is another whole other issue with the contract.
So through the chair, yes, as Rama alluded to, that decision was made by the rural water scheme and the council at the time to proceed with that option. So that was a decision that we were given the direction to proceed with. And also just to really be clear that it is a contractual issue currently, that is currently with the contract engineer discussing with that contractor.
I mean, you're also talking an environment through you, Mr. Chairman. Remember, the environment was compliance. And telemetry is, if you don't have telemetry up, you get the black marks and you end up with water notices and such like. So reliability was one of the aims of the decision at the time. And yes, the way technology works, who knows? You could at some point argue that reliability will be with Wi-Fi and things, but again, you're talking when decisions were taken.
Councillor Cotton?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to back up what Steve's saying there, when the decision was made by the committee, it was the best decision at that time. The other thing I want to comment on is just to reiterate what His Worship said. We've been told we're going to have a super El Nino period through July, January, February, so it is critical that we have something done by Christmas, and I think we all know that, but it doesn't harm to state it once more.
Quite important to reiterate that. Any other comments on this project? If not, Raymar, let's go to page 59 and talk about the Milton project, starting with the main road one.
Through the chair. So this is for the Milton pipeline renewals. So what is it? 2 weeks ago, the contractors have restarted the work there. And currently, right now, we are on the final stages of having that NZTA approval for what we should be doing on that pavement to reinstate the pavement. And in page 60, I've mentioned there that we don't have the figures yet because we're reviewing and having a forecast, and there's still a missing scope for us to understand how much would be the forecast would be. And I've just flagged there the risk of us overspending the budget of the above 2 million.
And that does make me nervous. You'll recall that I've been hammering on about this, the adequacy of this budget for quite some time. I noticed also when I was driving yesterday, road slumping on, was it Centennial Avenue? A couple of bad slumps. And just wondering what the implications is. Have they been assessed yet in terms of potential rehabilitation work?
Through the chair. So in terms of the assessment of who's supposed to reinstate that and what cost it, it's still being discussed under the contract. So that's between the contractor, the CA, and the IC. However, in terms of the reinstatement of that local road, that would be the purview from our side. Because we own the asset here.
Yeah, so through you, the Chair. So we are very aware of what's happening to our local network. Our roading operations team are being incredibly helpful. They're actually monitoring it for us. And currently, we then instruct the contractor, and at this point in time, it was our maintenance contractor that did this work for us, to do some reinstatement of temporary measures, because we are very aware that our local network is suffering until we can get a resolution on the proposed designs that are currently sitting with NZTA for sign off on remediation, and then the future time associated with getting that work done whilst that detour is in place.
So on page 61, Raymar, we talk about the project being completed on 21 October. What are the main risks to that not happening?
Through Chair, the main risk on that timeline is because at the point in time when the contractor had proposed this program, this was back early July.
Yep.
We haven't got the final approval from NZTA yet. So to this date, we're still finalizing that. So that's one of the key risks, because all of the schedule, the cost would be dependent on that design variable and what it entails. And then second is the reinstatement of the pavement. The second risk would be the availability of the resources to do the reinstatement, because it would be a subby, it would be a subcontractor. So, but the good news is I know that there's contractors that are interested in doing that. So yeah, those are the main key risks that I could think of.
Thank you. Questions, comments? If not, tell us about the Main Street beautification project.
Through the chair. So in terms of updates for the streetscape, in page 63, on that schedule there, you would notice that some of the dates has passed. So probably I'll just provide an update on that one. Activity 5, which is the pouring of the base, is already completed. Activity 4 is delayed because of the weather. However, it's just a 1-day duration type of work, and it doesn't affect the rest of the program for now. Activity 14 and 16 is 100% now. It's completed. Activity 11 and 15 is the concrete base has been laid, but the pavers are delayed because of still the weather permitting. And if you've noticed, last month I've mentioned that we would be able to complete this by mid-July. Now it's moved. The main reason there is the turf, as well as the brick veneers requires a certain surface temperature and ambient temperature to have those glue to work. So that's the main items happening in Milton Streetscape.
Raymar, when you present this paper to our next meeting, I'm looking at page 63 here, can you please add an extra column? So we've got finish as the scheduled finish date.
Yeah.
But just to capture what you've just verbalised, can you add a third column?
Yeah.
Which is actual finish date, so that we see where we are?
Even a tick.
Yeah.
Be fine.
Questions of Raymar on this project? Everyone's pretty comfortable with where we are and understand the reasons. Right, let's go to Elsie Stewart, page 67. Donna, are you going to speak to this one?
Yes, I am. Thank you. So I'm hoping you've driven past and seen the lovely branding finally up on the fence. I think it looks fantastic. The project's progressing really nicely. We've managed to mitigate one of the big concerns there was in regards to retaining what was considered contaminated soil on site. I mean, as you drove past, you would see the mounds of soil that was in situ there. We did some testing of that soil and it's actually passed as clean fill. So we actually managed to remove it from site, which is fantastic. One area of the clay soil there is. The rest still remains there. What that's done is it's actually given the contractors a bit more room to move, and we moved it at no cost, which is exceptional. As you can also now see, I drove past on Tuesday afternoon, the buildings beside that were purchased by a private purchaser have now been demolished, which gives a lot more space and air. And at about 4 o'clock this morning, I received an email from that private purchaser. I had to give some explanations to my husband as to why some man was emailing me through the middle of the night, but I did explain he was currently in Europe, so that was okay with the time delays. He's actually done a media release explaining that it's not associated with this project, and they've actually now declared that it was purchased by Donald Stewart privately. So that's all been publicised now, so we've put that risk to rest, which was a concern raised by the councillors at our last Risk Insurance Committee meeting. But everything's tracking along beautifully. We have got a site visit with a number of you tomorrow afternoon, which I'm really looking forward to. So we will go on site initially and give you all a walk around so you can get a real good look and feel. And then we'll be going to Porter Stewart's steel fabrication plant where all the steel is there, and it's so impressive, the quality and the calibre and the quantity of the steel and the finishing. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity for you all to actually see it before it starts getting installed, because it'll all get hidden, right? We're on track with budget, we're on track with time. There's no issues or concerns at this point in stage. There's been no concerns raised that I'm aware of from public. So we're communicating beautifully with our comms team associated with anything associated with the project. So if there's any questions.
Thank you, Donna. Questions or observations, Councillor Frost?
Through you, Chair. It states here that the swimming pool shop drawings are complete. I wasn't aware that there was going to be a shop in the library or the pool. And it also states that there's a community hall that is complete. Could you just explain what those two are for me, please?
So through the chair, the community hall is part of the original design. It's the room at the end of the building. It was always part of that build. It's always part of the budget. It's basically just it's going to be like a large empty hall space at this point in time for decisions to be made on how we do that, whether we lease it, whether a retail space goes in there, whatever. Those decisions have never been made. And that's just the contractor's terminology when they say the shop designs. It's actually the designs of the pool.
Thank you.
Councillor Graham?
Just to clarify that a wee bit too, the shop drawings are actually the drawings broken down so the individual components can be built, so they're not working off the main plan.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? There are none. Thank you, Donna. Now ask councillors to go back to pages 51 and 52. We'll hear firstly from Sharon on the Datascape project and secondly, Your Worship, on project H, the Southern Waters, if you have an update you'd like to give. Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's kind of all covered in here. We're progressing with our endeavour for the first time. Our processes that gave us a lot of trouble last year are going a lot smoother. I wouldn't say they're perfect, but they're a lot better. Yeah, and we've still got some things. We do still have outstanding issues, mostly in the more less mature parts of the system that we're still working through. But yeah, we're definitely making progress and feeling a lot more comfortable than this time last year.
Questions of Sharon? Your Worship.
Sharon, how's how are you getting on with the finance portfolio councillors? Are they quite calm about it? Are they as excited as you, or?
For you, Mr. Chair, absolutely.
Councillor Frost.
Through you, Chair. You state here, other stage 2 activities are currently part. These include cancelling property cemeteries, water meters, and IBIS budgeting system integration. How long do you think before all of these systems are going to be integrated into the new system?
Through the Chair, the council-owned properties, there is not actually a module to do that at this stage. The only thing we can do is have a list of our properties in there, but it won't calculate our rentals and stuff for us. So that's parked because we don't want it until it's ready, that one. And that could be a couple of years off, they said. Cemeteries is very similar situation, and you can have a list of things, but it's not as good as what we currently have. Water meters, we're not going to do it all because water meters disappear. It's a project of work that would have been too much input and headaches, I guess, because they leave 1 July. And the IBIS budgeting system integration, that is actually happening as we speak. They've started work on that. So that'll be so the two systems will just talk automatically and the budgets will come through without too much drama, and they're all mapped exactly the same.
Thank you.
Your Worship, is there anything additional to knowledge already imparted that you wish to share on Southern Waters with the committee?
Where we're at with Southern Waters, it's actually progressing quite well. Sheffield, and Roger will be able to update this more on this. Roger's looking after this side, but Sheffield have gone to the market. We're going to in the market for 2 directors before Christmas, help the chair. Roger's involved with the appointments of them. And are they actually, with those 2 directors, are they looking for the rural representative at the same time, or no?
I think we're putting together the scope around how we're going to do that.
Right.
There's meetings next week on all this. There's about 3 of them.
But the ambition's to have 2 directors on board before Christmas. Yeah. Get that rolling. I bumped into Fiona. She's the project lead. She was here the other couple of days ago, wasn't it? Start of the week. Monday. And they were kicking off meeting with staff and workshopping, and she had quite a team with her, so that's obviously building quite well. From a CDC perspective, we met with our Four Waters portfolio last week. They were actually concerned. There's a bit of anxiety out there with people not knowing roles, like there's no job certainties or so forth at the moment. But for me, I wasn't terribly concerned because they're still going to need people on the ground to do the work. That end of it, but there's a bit of anxiety amongst staff members and so forth. So I appreciate and understand what they were saying, and it'll be happening in other areas too, no doubt. But everything seems to be progressing quite well.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Councillor Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe there's a placeholders meeting with the chairman, with Bruce, on Thursday. Is that correct? Yeah. So, but it,
August, 2 weeks.
2 weeks away. Well, that's even better. So, but things are progressing really well, I think. So, looking forward to it all coming together.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions councillors have of staff on any aspect of the capital project report? And as you read this, you might think about, just go back and reflect on where we were an hour or so ago in terms of the projects. We've identified those, but the type of information. Are you comfortable with the content of the reports that you're currently getting, or is there additional information? And that's one of those things that will go back to our staff briefing. Right, do I have a mover for the recommendation on page 50?
So moved.
Councillor Cotton is yes, Councillor Graham is seconding. All in favour say aye. Against, carry. And with that, we will pause for tea break and reconvene We are on page 81, Three Waters report from
We're missing.
Linda, who's not here. So we could go to page 84 instead, while we're waiting for Linda to come back. Conflict of interest, just a machinery motion report. Is everybody, you've read your name, your interests, appointments, and confirmed they are correct, is that? Yep. So the reason that this is on the agenda is that it's a requirement that we impose on ourselves every 6 months. So Councillor Kennedy, you're happy to move. Councillor Harrison to second. On page 84, all in favour say aye. Carried. Page 88, financial reports. Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the second time we've been able to bring these reports through, which is very good. I was hoping to have a bit more analysis done on them for today, but unfortunately I haven't managed to do that. But a couple of comments I will make is the grants and donations, subsidies and donations. I've mentioned there that we didn't have a major ZTA claim in, and that is an additional $2.4 million on that. And also the big difference between the budget and actual here is there's a budget in there for better off funding of 1.9 million, which we do not have. There is there is a budget in there for investment surplus to come in to do projects and stuff that is not in the yet of 4.9 million. And we may or may not do that this year, depending on the scope of work we've completed. And then the other comment to make on this is the depreciation and the funded unfunded. We thought we'd tell you a bit about that. We don't fund we fund 25% of our water depreciation only, and we only fund our bridges for roading, as was mentioned earlier. So the unfunded amount in the 16.9 budgeted is around 14 million that we don't fund. And so for 26-27, with the budget you've just approved, with the additional depreciation put in from the reval, it's about 26 million out of the 29 we didn't fund. Other than that, I'll just take any questions you may have.
It's more a request. In the expenses, other operating expenditure is actually the biggest number.
Yes.
So can we separate that out in the future?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that was the additional analysis I was hoping to bring today.
Yeah, understand. Any comments from the portfolio holders?
I suppose it's just the depreciation, it's just the book entry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where do we lie when you're told that we should be depreciating it and we don't depreciate it? We've captured it as a number, so where does the council lie?
Through you, Mr. Chair, you don't have to fund it. And with roading, like, not councils don't fund roading to 100%. I think that would be I think anybody would do that to 100%. And then if the roading depreciation was the same quantum as our capital roading program, we would break even perfectly. But it's not, because we have a massive uplift.
So we had a workshop before the last meeting on how to read these financial statements. So has everybody been through some of those questions? We talked about the ratios and satisfied yourself that you understand what is there.
So the next meeting, Sharon, we'll have the end of financial year, won't we? Annual report.
Through you, Mr.
Which will
Chair.
grab those figures to wind us up for that missing month.
When's the next one? The 3rd of August.
6 weeks away.
We should have.
Should be by then. What date is it?
3rd
of September is our next meeting, yeah. So we should be advanced enough to
yes,
have that discussion, Councillor Catherwood, yes.
Question.
Councillor Cotton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sharon, just, it's with the pie and sky stuff, but going forward, if the water assets remain with us, would you expect the depreciation level to increase as time goes on?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we, in the long-term plan, we funded 25% for 5 years and then lifted it to 75%. But that decision was made by you as councillors, because obviously if you increase it, it affects the rates, but if you increase it, you have more money to spend to replace your assets, you don't have to borrow, so it's a decision.
Okay, yeah. So that'll be something for the new entity clearly to consider.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So good to see the financial reports on the agenda. Good to hear the progress that's been made from Sharon's previous report on our capital projects, and look forward to receiving additional information as well. There are some limited notes to these reports. Again, I would ask you to give some thought to what you want to see that supplements the information that is there at the moment, and feed that back through staff. Do I have a mover for the recommendation on page 88? Councillor McAtamany does.
Sorry.
You have a question
Just
as
gonna
well?
make, one comment on that. Yeah, like I agree with you, Mr. Chair, on the breaking down the other operating expenditure, but I just, the other day, Sharon showed Dane and I another program called Click, I think it was, and it was actually quite impressive, is that some of this datascape stuff actually goes into it as all the different line items that can be quite easily dropped out and reviewed. So, yeah, there's potential there. Yeah.
Thank you, Simon. Sorry, I sort of alluded to that in the CAD repporting, but
Yeah.
Yes, Greg's been working with the IT team and they've come back with a really cool report that allows you to slice and dice in lots of ways. It's not finished, it's not quite signed off. We just need to make a few tweaks and work with them a bit, but it's very positive.
Yeah. No,
Excellent. With that, you are happy to
will
move the
move it,
recommendation. Councillor Catherwood, happy to second?
Yeah.
All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Now we go back to Linda's report on page 81.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and apologies for not being at the restart. So this is our 11-month report, and again, he's been pulled together manually, although obviously we're getting a lot closer with things now. And our OPEX position is the same, so $1.4 million over budget, same as we were at the last, at the 10-month position. Which is a positive. I think it's the first time I've stood in front of you to say that it's been the same amount in the last 3 years. So that's, that might be a good thing. Some rounding last time, but there's only a very small difference between the deficit between the 10-month position and 11 months. We're continuing to tidy up some of those codes, making sure that things are in the right place so that the end of year position will be correct. And I guess otherwise I'm happy to take any questions. I just wanted to make one note because I know water meters were touched on in one of the previous reports, just to let you know that the process we're using this year has been really effective, and our water meter income is actually over. We've gathered more revenue than we were expecting to by about 100,000. So the manual process is working and working well.
Thank you. Questions of Linda? Again, Councillor McCrosty.
In your retail contract costs, third-party damage, Linda, what's that sort of allude to?
So through you, Mr. Chair, that's where we get damage that is done by farmers or other contractors who damage our repair when they're doing their work, and where we can identify that someone has caused damage, we bill them.
Yeah.
So we pass the cost.
Yeah.
Well, they generally do. They've ploughed up the rough and it's in the middle of their field. It's hard to deny. But yes, so that's money that we invoice them for and gather, but we just separate.
Cool.
Page 83, we talk about capital funding. Has that been done yet, or is that still a couple of steps away?
No, not done yet.
And will be done to match most of the capital expenditure
Correct.
of 10.8.
The nodding at the back of the room, yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
It's part of the annual report process.
Where are we? Councillor Smith, Councillor McCrosty, then Councillor Cotton.
Through you, the chair. Linda, you might have actually answered this before, but we keep going back to some of the wages could go back, be claimable October 25 winter event. Is that likely to be tidied up before June next year?
Yes, it will be, absolutely. Through you, Mr. Chair, in fact, we just followed up the insurer yesterday, which has done our progress claim, which doesn't include the staff costs. It's already gone. And we haven't had any funding back, but we've got a second claim to do, which is largely the work from our contractor. So that's around 300,000 as well. And the staff will be part of that final claim.
Under your storm event costs, would a fair percentage of that be like for the generators and stuff for water plants? And will that come under the insurance?
So through the chair, we do need to go through line by line through every item from the contractor. Some of that, because they were supplying generators or fueling them, also had staff running around. So hopefully a large percentage of that will be claimable. It will only be anything underground that has been repaired. That won't be claimable, but may be able to be covered by the emergency response fund.
Thank you.
Something like that, emergency fund.
So, look, Councillor Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question's been answered. The question was asked by Councillor Smith.
Any other questions? If not, do we have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Cotton, Councillor Smith, all in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you, Linda. We are now on page number 92, and we welcome Greg to the stage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Morning, everybody. The MOBA fund. So we actually had gains made the last 3 months since we started the new reporting in April. So that's been positive news. We had 269k realised in the last period in June, plus the quarterly distributions is reinvested, 70k. So currently here we're sitting at the 6.56% year-to-date cumulative return on investment. So that's over the budget of 4.1%.
Sorry, budget was 4.1, thank you.
Yes, so the 30 June closing balance of the fund is 30 million. Just you'll note from the benchmarks that the 3-month fund is 6.05%, so that's above the benchmark of 5.63. One other thing I was just going to mention to note is that we are going to have an upcoming change in the structure of our investment portfolio. There's an agenda item on this in this afternoon's meeting, so there'll be a bit more detail on that then. So, yeah, happy to take any questions or discussion.
Greg, do you need any feedback from councillors prior to the council discussion this afternoon?
I think it'll be decided at the not prior to the
Are they joining us this afternoon?
It meant to be yes. Yep.
Online?
Yep.
Good. Questions? No? Happy to move? Yeah, happy to move by Councillor Smith. Councillor McCrosty is seconding the report. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. And remaining with Greg, debt report.
So yes, just updating you to 30 June, what the borrowing's position was. So yes, as of 30 June, we had 166.8 million borrowings. So that didn't change since April. We also had as of 30 June, we had the Westpac multi-option credit line out. That's since been repaid. And just noting from the cost of funds graph below, at June 2026, our cost of funds was 4.10%, so that's the same amount as what our term borrowings rate in the annual plan is. So, again, take any questions or discussion?
Greg, that was 30th of June.
Yes.
Indicatively, what's happened to interest rates in the past 2 to 3 weeks?
We'll have to probably check with Bancorp.
Can you tell me what the cost of funds are budgeted for in 26-27 annual plan? Same number, 4.1. Thank you. Any questions of Greg, Councillor McAtamany?
Scratching my head. No, it's just a random scratching my head. Not an issue.
I was looking for any movement around. You were right. Any questions of Greg? Oh, that's a fairly straightforward report. Who's happy to move the recommendation on page 94? Councillor Harrison, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. All in favour? Aye. Carried. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Page 96, recommendations to move into public excluded. Councillor Graham, Councillor Kennedy. All in favour? Aye. Carried, and we will pause for a couple of minutes while we technology to do its stuff.